Revealed, hidden truth from Black Maid transforms billionaire's life-changing fortune in 30 days. Jack Aldridge stood on the balcony of his sprawling mansion, looking out over his perfectly manicured estate. To the world, he was a titan of industry, a man who had made billions. But behind the polished exterior was an emptiness that gnawed at him relentlessly. Every morning started the same board meetings, gala events, and the endless chase for more success. Yet, as he watched the sun dip below the horizon, he felt more like a ghost in his own life. Then there was Clara. An unwavering pillar of warmth in his cavernous world of wealth, she had served as his maid for over 3 decades. With her bright smile and kind eyes, she became the heartbeat of the home he had transformed into a fortress. Her laughter filled the rooms, bringing a spark to his stony existence. But still, Jack remained disconnected, trapped in a gilded cage. One day, as Clara was dusting off old boxes in the attic, she stumbled upon a trove of musty letters and faded photographs. Curiosity piqued, she brought the treasures down to Jack, who initially dismissed them. But Clara insisted, her eyes gleaming with excitement. "These are your family's stories, Jack," she urged. "They're your roots." As he flipped through the old letters, disbelief washed over him. The struggle and sacrifice of his ancestors, immigrants fighting for their piece of the American dream, stirred something deep within his heart. With each letter, he felt the layers of isolation peel away. "Wow," he whispered, emotions swelling like a storm. "I never knew." Clara's face lit up with understanding. "You're more than just wealth, Jack. You come from a line of fighters. You have a responsibility to honor that." The revelation ignited a flicker in Jack. Suddenly, he saw his community with new eyes, vulnerable and neglected. Should he remain sealed in his luxurious bubble, or step out into the world that needed him? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The weight of his ancestors' dreams settled on him like a mantle. He resolved to invest in local businesses, to uplift the very community he once overlooked. Clara stood beside him, joy brightening her brow. Yet, as news spread, tension crackled through the affluent enclave, neighbors whispered, fears were stoked. Their resentment was palpable. Jack was a traitor leading an unwelcome charge. Caught in the eye of this storm, doubts clawed at him. Friends, family members shifted, their true colors emerging like dark clouds in the sun. Still, Jack stood firm, confronting his allies and adversaries alike with newfound resolve. He began to understand the true cost of privilege. It was not a choice between comfort and justice, but a delicate dance. As Jack wrestled with backlash and internal crises, the narrative escalated, and Clara's voice remained a guiding light in the shadows of uncertainty. Would he embrace the tapestry of his heritage, weaving his family's struggles into a brighter future? Or would he retreat, surrendering to the pull of complacency? The choice loomed like a specter, leaving readers breathless as they yearned for the next step in Jack's transformative journey. As the sun rose, illuminating the estate in a golden hue, Jack stood in the kitchen, brewing his morning coffee. Clara bustled in, her usual cheer evident even before she saw him. She hummed softly, and as she turned to Jack, her smile faded slightly. "You okay?" Jack ran a hand through his hair, his mind racing with the weight of his decisions. "I've never felt this way, Clara. My world, it's changed overnight." "Good change or bad?" she asked, leaning against the counter. "Both, I guess. I want to do right by my family's legacy," but he trailed off, uncertainty churning inside him. Clara placed a gentle hand on his arm. "You've started something huge. People will always push back against change. But look deeper, find the stories that connect you to them. They might surprise you. Jack nodded, feeling the pulse of her conviction. He thought of the town, the faces he passed daily but never truly saw. For too long, he'd been a specter in his own life. Today, he felt the stirring of purpose. That afternoon, armed with letters and newfound determination, Jack ventured into town. Shops adorned with peeling paint and storefronts struggling to attract customers greeted him. He took a deep breath, stepping into his first target, a small cafe crowded with locals. The aroma of brewed coffee mingled with chatter and laughter, a cozy scene that tugged at his heartstrings. An elderly man behind the counter looked up, his weathered face breaking into a smile. "Well, if it isn't the big man himself. What brings you down to earth, Jack?" Jack rubbed the back of his neck, feeling shy. I want to help. I think we should work together on something to lift this place." The man's smile faded, replaced with a guarded expression. "And why would I trust you? You've always kept to your mansion." Jack absorbed the tension in the air. "You're right. I've distanced myself. But I see now that I have a responsibility to give back. I want to invest in local businesses. I have a lot of ideas and family history that drives me." A flash of interest lit up the man's eyes. "Family history, huh? That's worth a story." Jack shared fragments of the letters Clara had shown him, of ancestors who struggled and fought. As he spoke, the crowd began to quiet, hanging on to his words. He felt a spark of hope ignite. A young woman leaned forward. "If you're serious, Jack, we need a way to get people involved, a community event, something to show we're still here." The idea resonated, and Jack felt the thrill of possibility churn within him. "What if we host a festival? We could celebrate our heritage, our businesses connect everyone. It could be a chance for locals to showcase their crafts, their food." Excitement rippled through the crowd. Soon, conversation sparked, ideas exchanged, and laughter bubbled over. Jack realized then that barriers were falling, forging paths to unity. As he left the cafe, laughter echoing behind him, Jack caught sight of a group of children playing in the streets. A wave of pride surged through him. He had tasted the rich soil from which his family grew. This was just the beginning, yet, as he drove back towards the mansion, unease crept in. He knew he had ignited a fire, but what if it burned too intensely? What if he faced even stronger opposition from those he thought were allies? The thought chilled him. Despite the warmth blossoming in his heart, a shadow flickered in his mind, a reminder that with every step forward, there were risks. Would he find the strength to face the storms ahead? The answer seemed elusive as he stared at the mansion now bathed in dusk. Was he brave enough to stand his ground? As he parked, one question loomed larger than the rest: would the community really embrace his efforts or resist him fiercely? The following morning, Jack awoke earlier than usual, thoughts swirling in his mind like the steam rising from his coffee. The festival idea felt both thrilling and terrifying. A celebration could breathe life into the town, but would it invite the scrutiny of skeptics? He pushed those worries aside as Clara entered the kitchen, her smile infectious. "Big day ahead?" she asked, pouring herself a cup. "Yeah, I'm meeting some folks about the festival," Jack replied, trying to sound confident. "Just hope it goes well. Trust yourself, Jack. You're doing this for the right reasons." She leaned in, her eyes sincere. "Just remember, it's not just about the event. It's about the connections you make along the way." As he drove to the community center, excitement thrummed through him. The center was an old brick building, once vibrant but now fading like many parts of the town. He stepped inside, greeted by a small group of locals already gathered, whispering among themselves. They looked unsure, skeptical of Jack's presence. "Hey everyone, thanks for coming," Jack called out, attempting to infuse energy into his voice. The room quieted slowly, the echo of chairs scraping against the floor filling the space. An older woman, a neighbor he recognized from down the street, spoke first. "So, what's this festival about, Jack? You think you can just waltz in and change things up? He took a breath, feeling the pressure. I want to honor the town and celebrate what makes it special. We've got so much talent right here. I believe we can draw people in, create connections and support local businesses. Skepticism rippled through the group, but he pressed on. Imagine the crafts, the food, the music. He painted vivid pictures with his words, tapping into shared memories and nostalgia. Jack noticed a few nods among the crowd. Was it working? Then a young man with arms crossed chimed in, and what do you know about hard work? You've lived in that big house while we've struggled. Jack felt the sting of truth in those words. I can't change the past, but I can offer you a hand moving forward. I want to genuinely listen and work together. This festival is for all of us, not just me. The silence that followed was heavy, but Jack sensed a shift in the room. A woman raised her hand, her voice cautious but hopeful. If you're serious about helping, we'll need volunteers. And ideas for what we can showcase. I'm all in, Jack responded, a smile breaking through his earlier tension. Let's brainstorm together. We can turn this place around. Slowly, the atmosphere transformed. Suggestions started flying, laughter mingled with the anxious energy, and for the first time, Jack felt a real connection forming. The townsfolk opened up, sharing stories about their crafts, recipes passed down generations, pride in their heritage. As they spoke, Jack realized that each person was a thread in the tapestry. He wanted to weave a festival that could unify them, breathe life into the community, and honor those who had come before. Later, as he left the center with a sense of purpose hanging in the air, he couldn't shake the feeling that the real challenge was just beginning. Would they all continue to trust him as plans unfolded? And what would happen when unforeseen problems arose? That night, staring at the stars, he questioned whether he was ready for the weight of expectations he'd just set in motion. The festival could be a pivotal moment for the town or an overwhelming failure. Just then, Clara stepped out onto the porch beside him, sensing his turmoil. You look deep in thought. Yeah, I just hope. I'm not stepping on too many toes here, Jack admitted, a tremor in his voice. You're not alone. Just remember, the journey of transformation often comes with bumps. She paused, looking at him intently. But sometimes, the biggest surprises come from places you never expected. Her words hung in the night air. Jack turned to her, drawn into the mystery she hinted at. What do you mean? But before she could answer, a crash echoed from the direction of the community center, disrupting the moment. Jack's heart raced. What now? What if this was the spark that ignited conflict instead of unity? As he sprinted towards the sound, he felt the weight of uncertainty pressing down. Could he maintain the fragile connections he had begun to forge, despite the chaos that lay ahead? As Jack raced towards the community center, the echo of the crash clouded his thoughts. He could feel his heart pounding in his chest, and he fought to suppress the panic rising within. What havoc had been unleashed? He pushed through the door, his breath catching in his throat at the sight before him that a table had toppled over, its contents strewn across the floor. Chairs were askew, and a couple of townsfolk stood by, their faces twisted in shock. But amid the chaos, Jack spotted something glinting in the flickering light from a nearby lamp, a broken party decoration, a remnant from an old event. It hadn't been a protest, just a careless mistake in the dim light. Is everyone okay? He called out, rushing toward the group. Relief flooded through him when he saw nods and murmurs of reassurance. Yeah, just some decorations, an older man laughed, though the tension in his voice hinted at underlying worries. Thought we were in for a ruckus. Jack smiled, grateful for the camaraderie that surfaced even during a moment of chaos. Let's clean this up together. It's a small hiccup. We'll figure it out. As they set to work, the mood shifted. Conversations began to buzz, laughter broke through the anxiety, and soon everyone was bending down to pick up the scattered items. In this moment of unity, Jack felt hope reignite within him like a spark finding a dry match. Once the mess was cleared, Jack took a moment to survey the faces around him. There was still skepticism, but something had shifted. It was as if the room had collectively decided to embrace this festival not just as Jack's dream but as their own. "Okay, let us get back to planning," he said, trying to strike a balance between urgency and enthusiasm. "What do we want to showcase at the festival? How can we embody what makes this town unique?" Hands shot up, ideas bursting forth. An older woman spoke passionately about a farmer's market showcasing local produce. A man chimed in, suggesting a talent show featuring music and storytelling. The discussion erupted with energy as people shared their thoughts, passion mingling with laughter, each idea feeding off the last. As the night wore on, Jack realized how vital this moment was. They weren't just the townsfolk he had aimed to impress, they were a tapestry of dreams, histories, and shared hopes. He could see it in their eyes, each person lighting up with pride over a memory, an old recipe, or a forgotten tradition worth rediscovering. But as plans solidified, nagging questions lingered in Jack's mind. What was he sacrificing by embarking on this journey? Could he truly be the leader they needed? And would the growing expectations weigh heavily against him in ways he couldn't foresee? Just as he began formulating a response to a question about logistics, the doors swung open, and a figure stepped into the glow of the lamplight. The newcomer scanned the room, hesitating for a moment before taking a step inside. Jack's heart dropped as he recognized the familiar face. It was Marcus, the town's mayor who hadn't shown up to any of the earlier meetings. Next to him, whispers of doubt flared up, the initial joy of the evening crackling into something new, apprehension. Did Marcus come to shut down their plans? Was this festival already in jeopardy before it had a chance to begin? Jack glanced around at the anxious faces as the mayor approached. Would he have the courage to confront the worries recurring in everyone's mind? And more importantly, would Marcus' words shatter the fragile bond they had built tonight? "Jack," Marcus said, his voice steady but heavy. "Can we talk?" With uncertainty curling in the pit of his stomach, Jack nodded, knowing the real test of this moment might be just beginning. What could Marcus reveal? And would it change everything they had just started to build? Jack fought to keep his expression neutral as he stepped away from the group, his mind racing. The weight of Marcus's presence loomed large, more than just a figure of authority, he was the linchpin in Jack's hopes for the festival. As they retreated into a quiet corner of the community center, Jack searched for the right words, but all he could feel was a sense of impending dread. "What is it, Marcus?" he asked, forcing calm into his voice. Marcus paused, glancing back toward the gathering. The ambience shifted, a mix of excitement and uncertainty dappled throughout the hall. Jack's heart thudded at the thought that the mayor's words could either add fuel to the fire or extinguish it altogether. "I wanted to address some concerns," Marcus began, his tone measured. "I've been hearing chatter around town about this festival and frankly, there's a divide in the community." Jack steeled himself, remembering the warmth he'd seen just moments ago. "What divide?" "The younger generation is excited," Marcus admitted, scratching the back of his neck. "They see potential. But the older folks? They feel it's a distraction. A luxury we can't afford when bigger issues loom over us." Jack's stomach dropped. Was he really going to face this resistance already? "But it's about unity, community spirit. We need something to bring us together." Marcus's eyes softened, but he shook his head slowly. "I agree with you, Jack. I really do. But if we want this festival to work, we need everyone's input and backing." "I can facilitate that," if Jack interrupted, feeling a surge of frustration. "If what?" "If I conform to every concern. Isn't that what we always do? Play it safe. The festival is meant to be bold, a celebration of who we are." The mayor raised his hands defensively. "I'm not saying tone it down. I'm saying explain the why behind it. Get those hesitant folks to see what we see. This isn't just a party, it's a way to breathe life back into our town." Something in Marcus's conviction started to soften Jack's resistance. Beneath the mayor's stern exterior was an underlying desire for authenticity. Perhaps he wasn't against the festival but just wanted to ensure it wouldn't fall flat of expectations. Still, Jack felt his pulse race, the need to prove himself escalating. "I'll do what I need to do," Jack replied, leveling his gaze, now simmering with determination. "But I won't back down. We're not going to tone down our vision for anyone." Marcus nodded, appearing impressed by Jack's resolve. "I knew you had it in you. Just remember, it's a delicate balance." As they walked back toward the group, the chatter echoed off the walls, reminding Jack of the unity he longed to cultivate. He couldn't forget the energy they had ignited. Would he find a way to bridge that gap? Could he blend the fire of the youth with the experience of the elders? The night felt charged, adventurous. The moment he stepped back into the room, hope flared anew. The townsfolk welcomed him with smiles, but a shadow remained in his mind. Jack took a deep breath, gathering everyone's attention. "All right, folks. We've got some work to do." And then, just as the air filled with renewed purpose, the doors swung open again. This time, the cold rush of a sudden wind sliced through the warmth of the gathering. Jack turned to see who had entered, and for a moment, time stood still. That it was a stranger, but something about the way they looked at him, the urgency in their eyes, sent a ripple of unease through his chest. What news were they bringing? Jack felt the collective breath of the crowd behind him, all eyes darting to the newcomer. The night had shifted again, and he could sense it. A truth long buried might just be about to surface. What revelation awaited them? Would it shake the very foundation they were trying to build? The stranger stepped fully into the room, shaking off the chill of the night like a dog after a bath. Their coat was heavy and dark, but it was the face that captured every eye. Crowded with worry lines, eyes wide with determination, there was a story behind that gaze, something that gnawed at the atmosphere. Jack felt every heartbeat in the room sink with the stranger's arrival, a collective inhale held in tension. "Excuse me," they said, voice low but steady. "I need to speak with Jack." The weight of those words hung in the air, stifling the collective chatter as everyone turned to look at him, startled. Jack gulped, unsure whether to feel flattered or frightened. "That's me," he finally replied, stepping away from the group. The stranger stepped closer, and Jack noticed their hands trembled slightly, an echo of their emotional turmoil. "My name is Lena," she said, studying the faces around her before locking eyes with Jack. "I've come because I know something important about the festival, about your town." Jack, suddenly aware of the listening crowd behind him, felt exposed. "What do you know?" he asked, his curiosity overpowered by concern. Lena took a breath as if to steady herself, but the words rushed out, fueled by urgency. "Years ago, my family lived in this town. When I was a child, my father was involved in a local project, something that was supposed to boost the economy, but it fell apart. The town lost everything. I know the heartache that caused, and I know what's at stake right now." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Jack's mind raced. He could feel the weight of history tethered to Lena, pulling at the edges of his thoughts. That project, was it connected to the old mill? Lena's eyes widened. Yes. They shut it down. But it wasn't just about finances, it was corruption. People lost trust, lost hope. That's why they're hesitant. Jack's stomach twisted as a bitter truth took root. "So they think this festival, that we think it's a distraction?" "Exactly," she said, voice fervent. "You need to honor the past if you want to build a future. There are people here who still remember that betrayal. But they want hope, Jack. They want to believe again." He scanned the crowd, faces revealing confusion, sorrow, and flickers of hope. Jack felt the festival a bridge to the community teetering precariously. Could he truly honor the past while igniting that long-dormant spirit? "What can we do?" he asked, his voice guiding them toward action. Lena stepped closer, shoulders firming. "Listen to them. Understand their fears. Make it clear that this festival is not just for fun, it's a resurrection of the trust they lost." Silence fell, and Jack's heart raced. Could he be the leader they needed? Could he find a way not just to unite the generations but heal those deep wounds? "I'll speak to them," he declared, voice resonating through the room. "We'll hold a meeting to discuss their fears and needs. We'll make this a festival rooted in our community's heart." The crowd breathed a collective sigh of relief, flickering hope igniting within them. They had been longing for someone to guide them, someone brave enough to breach the gap. As the energy shifted again, Jack felt a surge of determination coursing through him. But Lena's grip tightened on his arm, pulling him back to the present, a serious expression darkening her features. "Jack, there is something else you need to know. It involves your festival and your town's history. Something bigger is at play than just this divide." The words paused in the air, heavy with implications. Jack's breath hitched, a new wave of uncertainty washing over him. What had he stumbled onto? As he looked into Lena's earnest eyes, he knew one thing: this night was far from over. What truth awaited them, one that could change everything? Lena's grip tightened further, her eyes searching Jack's face for understanding. "There's a reason I came back," she whispered, voice trembling slightly. "This isn't just about old wounds. It's about something that's happening right now, something that could threaten the success of the festival before it even begins." The room buzzed with tension. Jack took a step back, trying to process what Lena was saying. "What do you mean?" he asked, feeling the weight of her words. "Your festival, it's tied to the land," she said, letting go of his arm as she moved away, pacing slightly. "There are people who don't want it to happen. They want the town to remember the pain, to keep it chained to the past. They see the festival as a betrayal, Jack, a way of sweeping everything under the rug." Jack's heart raced. Could there really be forces at work undermining what they hoped to achieve? But why would anyone want that? Don't they want to move forward? "Not everyone does," Lena said, shaking her head. "Some people thrive on that pain. They believe that maintaining the status quo restores their power, their narrative. They're afraid of change. You'll need to convince them that this festival can be a new beginning, not just a distraction." The crowd seemed to breathe as one, absorbing this new information. Jack felt the enormity of what lay ahead. "We have to address their fears directly," he said, adrenaline fueling his thoughts. "If they see this festival as a chance for healing, something real, they might just change their minds." Lena nodded, but her face reflected concern. "It won't be easy. Some will roll back the moments of hope you're trying to create. They've held on to that pain for too long. They won't take your words lightly." He waved a hand dismissively. "They have to listen to us. We need to unite this community, trust one another to build something that lasts on that history." "But what if they refuse to listen? What if they rise against you?" Lena's voice dropped to an anxious whisper as she stepped closer again, urgency painting her features. "You need to prepare for a backlash, Jack. If they feel cornered, they might fight back harder." Jack felt his stomach twist into knots. He could already see the rifts forming, glimmers of doubt sprouting among the crowd. But deep down, he felt the ember of determination spark in his chest. He made a vow in that moment, mirroring the spirits he had seen in those around him. "Then we face it together. I won't shy away from the challenge. Not now." He glanced at Lena, who looked both impressed and wary. "Good," she replied, a faint smile breaking through. "But acting is key. Grab their hearts before their heads take over. You'll need stories, think of the pain, the hope, bring the memories out so they'll understand the bridge we're trying to build." Jack swallowed hard. He had spent countless hours preparing for the festival, but not for this. This felt bigger, like a tide rising against him. "And if we fail?" he whispered, the fear raw in his voice. "Failure isn't the end," Lena replied, resolutely. "It's just part of the journey. The question is, are you willing to keep moving forward, no matter the outcome?" As she spoke, Jack felt a flame igniting. He realized that the journey was not about avoiding failure, it was about resilience, unity, and forging ahead. Turning back to the audience, he spread his arms wide, ready to embrace the challenge. Let us meet tomorrow. We'll listen to each other, confront the shadows of our past, and light a path toward a brighter future. Together. A wave of murmurs rippled through the crowd, hesitant but hopeful. He could sense their collective breath, a shared heartbeat that thrummed with possibility. But just as hope began swelling, Lena's expression shifted again, her gaze drifting to the door. Jack, we may not be alone in this. Someone's watching. He followed her eyes, a chill slithering down his spine. Who could be standing in the shadows? What more was waiting to unfold? As Jack stood there, feeling the weight of unseen eyes, he realized that every step forward now seemed intertwined with an unsettling uncertainty. The stakes were higher than he had ever imagined. What would he uncover about the true dangers lurking around the corner? Jack's heart raced as he scanned the dimly lit corners of the room. The air thickened with tension, and the murmurs of the crowd faded into an eerie stillness. What if there really was someone watching? Who were they, and what did they want? An inkling of dread seeped into his mind, but it was quickly followed by a renewed sense of purpose. Lena, he said, his voice steadying, we need to find out who it is. I know, she replied, eyes narrowing as she focused on the door. But let us not alert them. We can't afford to raise suspicion. With a determined nod, Jack scanned the gathering, trying to catch the eye of someone he trusted. He settled on Marta, a longtime community leader who had always voiced the people's concerns. I need you on security duty, corner the back door, Jack said quietly, gesturing her over. Marta furrowed her brow, instinctively nodding her agreement as she slipped into the shadows. This was a delicate dance now, one wrong move could send ripples of fear throughout the crowd before they had the chance to unite. Lena's hand brushed against his arm, a grounding touch that momentarily distracted him from the brewing storm. Jack, what if they mean to sabotage the festival? He shook his head, unwilling to entertain that thought. The festival will happen. It's for everyone, every name and heart we've lost. We'll show them what we can build. Lena stepped back, striking a playful pose. Oh, the enthusiastic leader surfaces. But her eyes were heavy with worry. Jack grinned, bolstered by her spirit, yet a nagging question lingered. Were they tracking him? The protesters? It was more than their historical ties and old wounds, it was something deeper, festering, waiting for a chance to erupt. Look, Jack said as he eyed the crowd. Tomorrow, we'll gather everyone. We'll share stories, every piece of hurt woven into hope. We'll remind them why this festival matters. Yeah, but Lena's voice faltered, then firmed back up. You need to be ready for backlash, remember? Some people might react violently if they feel threatened. He drew in a slow breath. Then we make sure they feel included. Sometimes lifting the veil of secrecy can show them we're not just gathering anger and sadness, we're creating a fabric of new beginnings. Their eyes met, a silent agreement passing between them. They both understood what was at stake. They had both felt the power of shared stories, how they could stitch together the shredded pieces of individual pain, but as the plan began to solidify, another figure moved just beyond the edge of the doorway, a flicker of movement that made Jack's breath hitch. Wait. Lena turned her head, catching Jack's attention. What was that? Before he could respond, she was already heading that way, driven by an urgency that thrummed like an electric pulse between them. Jack followed, equal parts fear and hope pushing him onward. Lena, be careful. He called, but she was already slipping through the door, casting a glance back at him. Then she was gone, swallowed up by the growing darkness beyond. What the hell was he thinking? He couldn't do this alone, not now when stakes had risen. He pressed past the crowd, forging a path toward the doorway, worry gnawing at his gut. As he stepped into the night, he felt the chill of uncertainty wrap around him. Every shadow seemed to pulse with untold secrets, the air thick with an unknown presence. Lena's voice echoed back in his mind, pushing him further on. Are you willing to keep moving forward? He shook his head. Could he really? Just as he was about to lose faith in his own courage, he heard a rustle, a soft, barely audible whisper, and his heart stilled. Jack he stepped further into the darkness, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. But would he discover the support he desperately needed, or would it expose deeper betrayals hidden amongst those he trusted? With every heartbeat pounding in his ears, one truth began to surface: the festival's fight was just beginning, and he now stood on the precipice of that battle, armed with more than determination. But at what cost? What truths awaited him in the shadows, and who truly stood by his side? Jack's mind raced as he stepped into the night, the darkness wrapping around him like a cloak. He forced himself to remember Lena's determination, to pull that light into his core. Stay calm, he whispered under his breath, trying to convince himself as much as anyone else. Lena. He called, his voice cutting through the silence, echoing back at him. It felt eerie. The shadows squirmed at the edges of his sight, an unsettling reminder that he was not alone in this unwelcoming place. He stretched out his senses, straining to catch any movement, any sign of her. Jack. Her voice came back, nearly swallowed by the night. It was faint but firm, repositioning the dread that had begun to mushroom in his gut into something feeling pleasantly familiar. Hope. He rushed toward her voice, sidestepping cracked pavement and stray stones. Lena, where are you? Panic crept into his tone, but he fought to keep it at bay. An outline of her figure flickered ahead, just a shadow, just a silhouette, but he could feel her presence. There was something about Lena that grounded him, something that reminded him of all they had worked for. Over here. She emerged from deeper into the thickness of the night, just behind a cluster of trees where the festival lights couldn't reach. Relief washed over Jack in waves. Come quick. He followed her voice and burst through the tangle of branches, finding her crouched low beside the back wall of the old community center. The dull thumping of his heart mingled with the rhythmic beat of their collective breaths, two matching pulses in the enveloping silence. What did you find? He whispered, scanning around as he joined her. Look, she pointed toward the ground. A cluster of small footprints led away from the shadows. His stomach dropped. They could belong to anyone. Someone is watching us, Lena said, her brow creasing. We need to warn Marta. If they found a way. Her voice trailed off, leaving the implication heavy in the air. A sudden sound broke the tension, a crunching of leaves from the direction of the footprints. Jack's muscles tensed, and he felt a surge of adrenaline course through him. Hide! He hissed, pushing them both behind the thick trunk of a nearby tree. The footsteps drew closer, and Jack dared to peek over the edge. A dark silhouette struggled to navigate the uneven path. It was a young man, no older than 20, wild-eyed and disheveled, glancing left and right as if expecting someone to jump out. What does he want? Jack whispered, heart racing. I don't know, Lena said, her eyes darting between Jack and the newcomer. Maybe he's just scared like us. Maybe he's looking for help. But why would he be alone in a place like this? Jack felt unease grip his throat. This can't be happening. The young man stopped abruptly, staring directly at their hiding spot. Jack's breath quickened. He can't see us, right? Lena placed a hand on his shoulder, grounding him. Stay calm. Maybe he's just lost. But the tension in Jack's core twisted tighter, fear blending with a growing sense of responsibility. If they approached him, they could get answers, but would it expose them to danger? Let us see what he does, Jack decided quietly. But the moment felt fragile, precarious. They both knew that going down this path could alter everything they had worked for. Suddenly, the young man turned, bolting deeper into the woods, disappearing into the shadows. Why did he run? Lena whispered, bewildered. I think he knows something, Jack breathed, making his decision. We have to follow him. We need to understand what is happening. As they slid out from their cover, a shiver ran down Jack's spine. The night held secrets that danced just beyond reach. But now, with uncertainty swirling around them, he felt he had no choice but to plunge deeper into whatever darkness awaited. What would they uncover in the night's embrace? And was this stranger more friend or foe? The forest embraced Jack and Lena as they ventured further into the darkness, the air thick with tension and uncertainty. His heart pounded like a drum, urging him to propel forward into the unknown. Every snap of a twig and rustle of leaves heightened the urgency, the weight of what lay ahead pressing against their chests. "Do you think we can trust him?" Lena whispered, her eyes scanning the trees like a hawk searching for prey. "I don't know," Jack replied, his breath shallow. "But something tells me he's connected to all of this." They pushed on, adrenaline coursing through their veins. The further they went, the more Jack felt the thrill of purpose spark inside him. This was more than just a festival now, it was a fight for their community's spirit, a battle against the shadows of the past. The stranger up ahead was leading them to answers. Whether they were prepared for what they might find was uncertain, but they couldn't turn back now. Suddenly, they saw a flicker of movement, a glimpse of the young man just ahead. He hesitated, glancing back, his expression one of fear mingled with hope. Jack held his breath, feeling a quiet connection with the stranger. This kid wasn't unlike the townspeople, lost and seeking something greater. "Hey!" Jack called out, his voice steady. "We just want to talk. We're not here to hurt you." The young man halted, eyes darting between Jack and Lena. He appeared to weigh his options, fear tempering the trust he might extend. "Talk? About what?" His voice was low and shaky, revealing the nerves that hummed beneath his tough exterior. "About the festival," Jack said, feeling a sense of urgency wash over him. "We need to know what's really happening in this town." "You were watching us, why?" The young man took a step back, glancing around as though he expected someone to jump out from behind the trees. It's not safe for you," he finally stammered. "People don't want the festival. It's the divide, and it's growing." Jack felt the ground beneath him shift as he processed this. "What do you mean?" "We want to bring the community together. Not everyone sees it that way." "The festival? They think it'll reopen old wounds. Some see it as a threat." The urgency in the young man's voice leaked into Jack's heart. "If they think you're trying to erase the past, you'll face real danger. Some are just waiting for the right moment to strike." "Strike?" Lena echoed, fear lacing her voice. "Yeah, like a protest," the young man admitted, anxiety spilling from him. "They don't want another attempt to sweep everything under the rug. Your plans, they see it as a betrayal." Jack felt his stomach twist. What he had hoped would ignite change was shaping into something far more sinister. "But if we don't address these issues, we can't move forward. We have to talk to them," he insisted, his voice firm despite the rising tide of worry in his chest. The stranger nodded slowly, as if absorbing Jack's determination. "Then you'll have to show them you're genuine. They need to see a commitment to face the past, to listen. It's the only way you'll gain their trust." "A commitment to face the past," Jack repeated, letting those words sink in. "Yes." The young man's eyes sharpened with resolve. "It won't be easy. You're challenging not just the community's fears but the very fabric that's held them together." Jack felt the weight of everything he had fought for welling up inside him. "Then let us confront them together. Show them they're not alone." Lena's hand found his as they shared a glance, mutual strength igniting between them. This was their story to tell, a tapestry woven with threads of history, pain, and hope. "What's your name?" Jack asked, determination coloring his tone. "David," the young man responded, the flicker of trust beginning to bloom in his eyes. "Then, David," Jack said, "let us bring the community together, and let us do it right." As the trio made their way back into the night, Jack felt a surge of hope wash over him. The festival could be an awakening, an opportunity not only to celebrate but to heal. The following day, surrounded by the familiar faces of the community at the community center, he stood before a crowd, uncertainty painting some faces, while others glimmered with cautious hope. "We're here to address the fears," Jack began, his voice unwavering as he connected with both the skeptics and the dreamers. "We need to confront our past so that we can create a future. Let us share our stories, our pain, and our hopes. Together." A renewed sense of purpose filled the room as voices mingled, sharing experiences, feelings of trust slowly building. Jack felt a smile flicker on his lips as conversations erupted, the spark of unity forming in a space where once there had been only shadows. As evening descended, Jack looked around, feeling Clara's presence in spirit. He hoped to honor her wisdom and support. The festival wasn't just about the celebration anymore, it was now a commitment to nurturing community bonds and addressing fractured histories. "Let us bring our festival to life," Jack declared. The crowd erupted in applause, a resonance of acceptance and trust echoing through the center. Perhaps, in standing against the shadows together, they would create a brighter tomorrow. Jack looked at Lena, a surge of gratitude filling his heart. They had faced uncertainty and fear, but through it all, something beautiful was blooming: hope, resilience, and community. This was just the beginning. And he had never felt more alive. If you felt inspired by this transformative journey, now is the time to take action. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss our next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. We want to hear from you. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Your support means everything. Let us grow this community together.